How is it going, YouTube? Mo Sports Network here, back with the first video of my NFL draft grades for the completed drafts. I did live reactions, instant reactions. Some of them I don't completely agree with now. Some of them I'm going to remain similar on, and we're going to start with the AFC North grades today. So we're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals, my favorite team. That's the main reason we're starting with the AFC North, to be honest. And I really like what the Bengals did. So first overall pick, they took the obvious pick. They got Joe Burrow, their franchise quarterback. That was the obvious pick for them. And we all know about that at this point. But the rest of the draft, I have to hype up a bunch as well. T. Higgins. A.J. Green's not going to be a Bengal forever, and so they need to get his replacement. T. Higgins grew up loving the Bengals, and A.J. Green, he modeled his game after him. So if we could get a third time in a row, we had Palmer to Ocho Cinco, we had Dalton to Green, and if we can get Burrow to Higgins, if we could strike gold 3 times in a row, that would be truly ideal. Picks 3 and 4, we double dipped at linebacker because that's the team's probably biggest need. Jermaine Pratt and Josh Bynes are the only 2 starting caliber linemen on the team right now, and you need more than 2 linebackers to play in the NFL, especially in base. The Bengals still are running a 4-3, even though rumors are they could switch. But in base 4-3, you need at least 3 linebackers, and there's only 2 starting caliber ones on the team at the moment. So Wilson and Davis Gaither filling that need will be important. Khalid Kareem, Khalid Kareem rather, from Notre Dame, the edge rusher. This is one that I'm a little lower on than the rest of the picks. Edge rusher. Overall, or defensive lineman at least overall, a position where the Bengals don't really need that much help. They have Carlos Dunlap, Sam Hubbard as the starters right now. They also have Carl Lawson, who's a freaking beast. Some guys from previous drafts. They have Andrew Brown, Rennell Wren developing up in the wings. They have nose tackle lockdown with DJ Reader, and Geno Atkins will be another defensive tackle to rush the passer. So you always need edge rush depth in the NFL in the 5th round. There's not that big a problem with it. I just don't love the player here, especially with the offensive line need. Fortunately, they addressed offensive line in the 6th round. They picked Hakeem Adeniji out of Kansas. He's a 6th round offensive lineman. He will be competing for the right guard and potentially right tackle spot, but I doubt he'll be starting year 1 for the Bengals. And then finally in the 7th round, they have Marcus Bailey, another linebacker, probably like 3rd round talent if he didn't get injured. So if his injuries don't screw him up, he could be a starting caliber linebacker with the Bengals. Draft grade, I'm going to give it an A as of now. I think they addressed what they needed to address. You can't fix this team in one night. And I think with what they've done in this draft, this team has one glaring hole at this point, and that's offensive line. They're number 1 in the waiver wire, so if offensive linemen get cut, Bengals are the first ones to come and pick one up. And the coaching staff has had a lot of praise for the offensive line, which got better near the end of the season. So that's the big thing. So not an A+ from me, but when you get your franchise quarterback, or potentially a franchise quarterback, along with the rest of the supporting cast, I have to give it an A. So we're going to go on to the next team, the Cleveland Browns. I love what the Browns did, even more so than the Bengals. I might have spelled Elliott wrong there, so excuse that if that happened. There might be 2 T's, but that's besides the point. I like pretty much every pick the Browns made here. The first 3 are all incredible value A+ picks from me: Wills, Delpit, and Elliott. I had a early 2nd round grade on Elliott and 1st round grades on Delpit and Wills. So that's very exciting for the Browns, and they filled 3 really big positional needs there. Jacob Phillips, I'm not super high on the Phillips pick, especially with guys like Malik Harrison, Akeem Davis-Gaither, and Troy Dye still on the board. I think they're just slightly better than Phillips, but they tackled that need with linebacker being the weakest position on the Browns' defense. especially with Elliott added to the defensive line. Harrison Bryant, a bit curious. He's a good value tight end, but they have David Njoku and Austin Hooper on the team now, so he's only going to be a third-string tight end. I don't know if that's what you want in the fourth round, but still solid. Nick Harris, quality center as far as fifth-round picks go. Potentially looking at a future J.C. Treader replacement. He's getting up there in age. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, has potential to be a starter, like a wide receiver 3 on day one for the Browns. He has that upside. I think Michigan criminally underutilized him, but he's going to be a 6th-round pick for the Browns. I love what the Browns did. They get an A+ from me. I don't have a problem with any of the picks they made. I just think they knocked it out of the park. As a Bengals fan, that bugs me, but A+ for the Cleveland Browns. So we're going to go to the next one. We got the Baltimore Ravens, and another team that knocked it out of the park, especially with their first 5 picks in the draft. I love 8 of their 10 picks, and 2 of them I don't think are bad either. Patrick Queen, their biggest needs linebacker. They took the second best one in the draft, in my opinion. Mark Ingram is 30 years old. J.K. Dobbins will start for the Ravens for like 5 or 6 years, in my opinion, once Ingram retires, because running backs only have so long on them. So Dobbins, great pick. Justin Madubuike, I had a first-round grade defensive lineman on him. He goes in the 3rd round to continue to bolster that defensive line with the addition of Derek Wolfe and Calais Campbell. That terrifies me. Devin Duvernay, potential to be a wide receiver 3 right away, and he got picked in the 3rd round. And Malik Harrison, another guy who can rack up tackles for the Ravens. I talked about linebacker being their biggest need. They double dip much like the Bengals. One of the picks I'm not in love with is Tyree Phillips from Mississippi State. He could develop into a decent offensive lineman, and the Ravens are just picking him up for depth. 3rd round, maybe a little early, but it's going to make up for it with the Ben Bredesen pick in the 4th round. He's probably going to be the Ravens starting left guard, the Marshall Yonder replacement. You could pick up a starting guard in the 4th round. That's a very solid addition. Maybe if you switch those picks there, I'd like it more, but that's just not how it went. Broderick Washington, don't know too much about him. No, he was a decent defensive tackle, but he is a 5th rounder. We'll be fighting to make a spot on the team. And then James Prochet and Geno Stone with picks 6 and 7. I love these value picks. Geno Stone's probably going to come in and be the backup safety like right away. And James Prochet for a sort of wide receiver needy team in the Ravens. Another just solid pickup along with Devin Duvernay. I know I've been super positive this entire video so far, but I have to give the Ravens an A+ as well. Them and the Browns knocked it out of the park. I don't have a problem with a single one of their picks. And then for the final team in the AFC North, we're going to flip over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A little lower on this draft than the rest of them, and that might just be because the Steelers didn't have a first-round pick, but I can't fault them for that because they got a franchise defensive player in Minkah Fitzpatrick with their first-round pick this year, so I can't really fault them for not having a first-round pick because they picked up a first-round caliber player with it. And the rest of the draft, my beef is that there's only 2 players they picked who will even be backups. The rest of these guys will just be depth guys. And I know that will tend to happen when you only have 6 picks in the draft like the Steelers did this year. I like the Chase Claypool and especially the Alex Highsmith pick. I think Highsmith has the upside to potentially be a starting edge rusher one day. And Claypool, I think, fits in very well in Pittsburgh to be potentially that wide receiver 3 if Washington or Johnson, something happens to their development. I think Claypool has an upside, but Anthony McFarland, 4th-string running back, I think at the moment. I don't think he's better than Snell, Samuels, or Connor right now. So just a depth guy in the 4th round. Kevin Dotson, another depth guy at guard. Could he start for them one day? Yes. He's a big Steelers guy, so I think he wants to stick around as long as he can. So, solid pick. You're going to need guard eventually in Pittsburgh, especially with the departure of Ramon Foster, but they got Stefan Wisniewski, who's a very solid guard. And then in the 5th round, Antoine Brooks. In the 7th round, Carlos Davis. They're going to be strictly depth guys. So with what the Steelers had, I don't like dislike any of their picks necessarily, because they're already a very strong roster with not many holes, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And how the draft went out and how they didn't pick till the 17th pick in the second round. I think the Steelers did pretty well with what they had. They're not going to have an instant starter out of this group like the other than, of course, the Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is their first round pick. But I think the Bengals, Browns, and Ravens got multiple starters with their picks. Whether you want to say those rosters are weaker than the Steelers, you definitely could say that about the Browns and Bengals. I wouldn't say that about the Ravens for sure, and they picked up multiple starters in the draft. So for the Steelers, I'm going to give them a B. So nothing like too damning, but also I'm just not in love with it to give it an A like the rest of the teams in the division. So Steelers fans, I like the draft. I mean, a B is still a solid grade. It's above average. And I think all of these players, I like them enough. I just don't think it's as high quality as the other 3 drafts in the division. So that's all I have to say about the AFC North. I think the NFC North will be the next one coming. I think I'm going to alternate between divisions. So we're going to go Norths, then Wests, then Easts, then Souths. So that's going to be the order. So NFC North will be the next video coming tomorrow, and they're going to be less positive, at least for one team, than I was in this one. So thank all of you guys for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow.